We'll request all the participants to mute themselves, please. Yes, Uma?
Yes, ma'am. Today.
Hello. I'll start, or you tell me when to start.
So
Okay.
I welcome our resource person for today, Ms. Lalita Sareen, and all the participants to today's training program on empathy, a 21st century skill. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry for that slight delay. I hope you can hear me, all of you. Ruma, can you tell me whether I'm heard?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Okay, great. So we'll start today. It's a little heavy subject, empathy, but it's the need of the hour. So can we come? So what do we understand by empathy? Everybody talks about it, and the whole world, we say, is in need of empathy. There's a deficit of empathy, lack of understanding, a lack of uh, meeting other people's emotional needs, um, misunderstanding, which is different from lack of understanding. So, what do we understand from empathy? And obviously, empathy is different from sympathy. Next slide, Ruma. So, very, very simple terms, empathy is the ability to understand things from another person's perspective. You see it from the other person's viewpoint. And it is the ability to share someone else's feelings and emotions and understand, which is very important, why they are having those feelings. Whereas in sympathy, you feel sorry for the other person. You don't understand why the person is feeling that way. You don't connect with the emotions, but you feel sorry for the other person. And in some ways, you say, thank God it's not happening to me. But empathy is different. Empathy is a connect with the person who is going through a bad time. Now, there's a famous quote of Barack Obama. He says, the biggest deficit that we have in our society and in the world right now is an empathy deficit. And we are in great need of people being able to stand in somebody else's shoes and see the world through their eyes. What a lovely explanation of what empathy is all about. And I can give you an example. When the COVID started and the migrants started coming from wherever they're working, making their way home, walking for miles and miles. And when we saw those pictures and we read about them in the papers, we felt bad. We felt sorry. We were not empathetic, because empathy would shake us to do something for them. So that is the difference between sympathy and empathy. And I'm giving you that example because it's a very recent example. Next slide, please. Now, empathy is on three levels. One is cognitive, and cognitive, as know, it has to do with the mind. So that is the ability to understand how someone else's feels and to work out what they might be thinking. This is all on the mental level. I can understand what you're feeling and what you're thinking. Emotional empathy, as it suggests, refers to the ability to share another person's emotions. This would mean that when you see someone else who is sad, it makes you feel sad. Sometimes when we go, um, somebody has a demise in the house, and we go and we sit there and we feel sad. We share that sadness with the other person, the person who has had a loss. Now, compassionate empathy is when you take feelings to action, when you understand what the person is going through and you take some solutions and work out some doable actions to help that person. So again, taking the examples of the migrants, we felt sympathetic, and we've read about many people who came out to help them. That was compassionate empathy. So in short, cognitive is to think, emotional is to feel, and compassionate is to act. So, three levels of empathy, and this is a simple way of saying it. So, we'll come to slide 6, Ruma. Uh, so, why do we need, next slide, please. Why do we need empathy? How does it affect us? We are all adults. So, how does it affect us? Should we only think of empathy for children, or does it have any cognizance in our lives? So, in personal life, and in personal life, you've seen differences can happen between husband, wife, between child and the parents. We've all heard of Saas Bahu ki kahaniya, and they're all coming from lack of empathy, lack of understanding. So, a healthy relationship requires nurture, care, and understanding. Friendship or romantic relationship that lacks empathy and understanding will soon flounder. Obviously, there will be differences of opinion because of lack of understanding. There's a very nice book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. It's a beautiful book which tells us how different the both are and how they can still find a common ground. So, uh, very often, when the couple is dating uh, and then they get married, after the wife starts changing the husband to his habits are changed, his way of dressing may be changed. It could be vice versa also. And after a few years of marriage, she'll say, "अरे आप पहले जैसे नहीं रहे, आपने पूरा चेंज कर दिया उनको, तो पहले जैसे रहेंगे कैसे?" So that's on a lighter note, of course. So people should be, both people in a relationship, bring their own individual ideas, experiences, and struggles. And when there is a connection between the two, when there is understanding between the two, the car will move smoothly. Otherwise, there will be a puncture. Next slide. So in workplace also, we often work in a group and we have co-workers, and we can get into altercations with them if we don't understand. You may not agree with the person, but you need to understand and then go on from there. You using empathy is a vital part of a smooth working relationship. It is highly important for management to use empathy. You may go and ask for a day's leave from your boss, and the boss says, "I cannot give you for such a flimsy reason. I don't know why you're taking this leave." But if and you come back feeling very bad. But if the boss understands that that leave is important for you, even if there's no reason, you may be stressed, you may be overworked, you may be tired, you may not be in a mood to work. So by making you stay on in work, the output is going to be zero. But if the boss understands, then obviously there will be a very cordial working relationship. So it should be high, and it should be vice versa also, obviously. The boss cannot always be right. So higher amounts of empathy in the workplace have been linked to increased performance and better relationship abilities. So how does empathy impact the world? You look at the scenario now, warring countries, lack of understanding between countries, so they are always at altercation. So that is because of lack of empathy. Empathy from a global perspective is infinitely important, especially when it leads to compassion. And remember, I said compassionate empathy is when you understand the other's point of view and work out a doable solution to that. This type of empathy pushes people to dive in and help when there are major disasters. So you have disaster. We just had a disaster, huge disaster in Gujarat, and the world over, people, nations were coming forward to help. Similarly, the war between Ukraine and Russia, there are people helping both the sides. So people are willing to help out others that they have never met because they know that they too would need help if things were reversed. What donations we make without knowing where this money is going to, we make because we feel for the other person. Without compassionate empathy, the world would be a much darker and less functional place to live. So that brings to the question, uh, is it a skill that we are born with, or can empathy be taught? Now, sometimes it is a genetic predisposition. You'll find some people calmer, more empathetic than the others. It's a genetic predisposition. But it can be learned. It can be inculcated, whether you're an adult or whether there is a child. It's easier to inculcate empathy in children because they grow up with that skill. So, one of the most effective ways for someone to become empathetic is for them to be trained as children. So, empathy is a part of education known as emotional intelligence. You've seen Howard Gardner's um, wheel of intelligence. So, the latest is emotional intelligence. Teaching children to think of the way that other people feel is a good way of helping them develop empathy. You'll find children who don't have empathy, they are aggressive, they are reticent, they have very strong actions, behavior patterns. So if a child hurts another child or teases them, it is helpful to ask the child how they think they made the other one feel. This is for adults also. If you are teasing or making fun of someone, just think how the other person must be feeling or how you would feel if that was done to you. Would they like to be teased or hurt, or would they be sad or angry if someone treated them poorly? This line of thought can also be used for positive things. For example, sharing is an important part of a young child's education. Children are often taught to share because they like it. And when we share things, when you're sitting as educators, you have a table and you're sitting and sharing your snack or lunch with your colleagues, you feel nice. You feel as if there's a release of some kind of burden from you. हंसते खाते पीते अपने दुख को आप भुला देते for that time being. Or if you can, when you're gifting somebody or somebody gifts you something, you have a very nice feeling, feel good factor. So that's also empathy. So how do we improve now? Everybody is not very empathetic, and everybody doesn't have the skill. So how do we um, develop this skill? So we must read books that give you a calmness about it, because we identify with the characters in the book. It's said that people who read Twilight and Harry Potter, they discovered that people self-identified as vampires and wizards. Little children, when they read their books, they say, मुझे आज रात को सपने में आया था वो भूत. So you identify, even adults identify with the characters that they encounter in their reading habit. So the reason this discovery matters is because it shows that people are able to identify with people and groups that they are actually outside of themselves. They are beyond their realm of everyday life. So it's like a non-fantasy application. It shows that people can relate to people who live lives that are entirely different than their own. So, for example, people from United States could read a book about a person in India and learn to identify with someone on the other side of the planet. So when they actually come to India, they would understand our culture and language, the crowd, the noise better than if they did not read and come. So the first thing to improve your level of empathy is to read, then listen. It's a very important skill. You must listen to others to develop empathy. Most often, when we are talking in our daily conversation, we are not listening, we are only hearing. And listening means you are keeping your prejudices aside. You are listening to what the other person is saying and not forming an opinion. So, because listening to a person who is under stress can unburden that person. He just needs somebody to listen. But if you break his line of thought and intrude with your opinion, it's not going to help. So, listening is best achieved when we set aside our own thoughts and opinions and carefully think what the other person is saying. There is a group called Befrienders in counseling, and there they do not give advice, they only listen. And there's a lot of good that has done. They have weaned people away from committing suicide just by listening. So we can also do a better job of listening when we set aside distractions like cell phones or tablets. Sometimes when a child comes to us and says, I want to talk to you, Miss, Ma'am, or Sir, uh, he's talking to you, he's telling you something, but your phone rings or you are busy reading something or doing something. So that undivided attention is not given. So he's unable to unburden himself because he knows that you're not interested. So that again, lack of empathy. Then we have lots of stereotypes. We identify people with, who are not in our group. So those who are not in our group, we don't understand. We have prejudices. Somebody from a certain region, somebody with a certain color, somebody with a certain type of dress, somebody with the way we talk. Oh, he doesn't know English, so couldn't be intelligent, and so on and so forth. So we form opinions. We are judgmental, and because we are opinionated and judgmental, we are unable to understand or empathize with the person who is not in the group. So that's a very common uh, way of acting when we do, whether it is in the workplace or whether it is in our social life. Um, we are constantly doing that. And that causes a lot of friction. You're not with me, you're not in the UN, so we don't care about you. You're not a part of the Security Council, we don't care about you. So things like that. That is, of course, on a political level, but on a personal level also. I don't like you because the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you smell. So these are all prejudices that can be barriers to our empathizing with people. So we must keep our minds open and keep our circle also big and include people whom perceptually we may not like. But when you get to know them, you'll say, oh, why did I make the mistake of not including this person? He's so interesting. So then we come to students. So, as I said before, students need to develop the skill or inculcate the skill from the very early level. You've seen in school, there's a lot of bullying going on nowadays. When students are committing suicide, they are unable to cope or handle differences with their colleagues or with their teachers, whichever one. So, one way to develop empathy in students is to create a classroom community in which students feel safe sharing their thoughts and feelings. Again, you allow them to speak without giving an opinion. This is right, this is wrong. No. Let there be just free speech of thoughts and feelings. So, teacher can also help students develop empathy by teaching them about different cultures and religion and by discussing social justice issues. So, you are, giving them, exposing them to different experiences, and the child will be an open minded child. So, students can be encouraged to reflect on their thoughts and feelings, and they must consider how they might react in a similar situation. And obviously, like anything else, we have to be role models for empathy. Now, as teachers, we know that empathy is an important skill for our students to develop. So, but how do we model empathy for our students? Teachers are always on the show. So, one way is to reflect on your own feelings and reactions. When you share your thoughts and feelings with your students, they will see that you are someone who is willing to be open and vulnerable, that you are also human. You have the same kind of feelings, you have the same kind of experiences. So that gives them a safety shield to share their own thoughts and feelings with you. We all of us have a good friend. We will talk our heart out to the friend, but we may not talk the same way to maybe our parents or maybe to other people, because the friend has given you the leeway to share. He or she is equally open with you. So when we share our openness with the students feel secure. The other one is to be aware of your body language and tone of voice. If the somebody is sharing something with you, uh, your body language may be negative, and that will withdraw the student or the lack of trust. So, or the tone of your voice, it has to be calm, it has to be positive. It's very difficult. We can't always be like that, but we can all try if we want our students to be positive, empathetic students. So when students see that their teachers are empathetic, it can help them feel more comfortable opening up about their own feelings and experiences. Often we have children who have not completed their work at home, or they come with, crumpled clothes, uniform to school, and we reprimand them without knowing any reason. They may be having a valid reason. There must be something happening in their house that prevents them from completing their work or from ironing their clothes, something. But we don't give that a thought. And so the child withdraws and closes his doors to you. Then the student, the child doesn't know his feelings. He has to identify his feelings. So it's very easy to desensitize to pain and suffering of others. Very easy. It doesn't affect me, so I don't care. But we are part of no man is an island. We are all connected to each other, and so we need to be sensitive to others, whether in their pain or whether in their happiness, whatever it may be. So we have to help students identify their feelings. So when once a student can label their own emotion, and a good way, and I'll be discussing them later also, is to show them pictures of different emotions. They are very familiar with emojis nowadays, so show them pictures of different emotions, and they can identify that. And then you can say, okay, this one is a smiley face. So when do you have a smiling face? Or when do you frown? When do you cry? uh, when you are in pain? So those emotions he will try to identify, and he will also try to identify the occasions when he has those of it. So it's a good idea to do it, and it's very, very effective. And you will have a very responsive class if you try this. Now, we have to also teach students to cope with different situations. So we need to teach them coping skills also to make them empathetic. So how do I respond to difficult situations? And nowadays, because of the insecure ambience that they are living in, you need to do that. We have cases of students, bringing arms into the school, or bullying or hitting, many cases. So we need to teach them, and anything can have good touch, bad touch outside the school. So we need to teach them how to deal with this. So empathy is the ability to understand and share feelings of another person. It is important to, know your own feelings, but you should also understand and share feelings of another person. So it's an important skill for both personal and professional relationships. So when students have empathy, they are better able to understand and relate to others, which can lead to more positive relationships. So one of the ways to do this is role play. Give different situations to the students where they role play and come out with solutions to that situation. Obviously, the situation has to do with empathy and compassion. And these will stay with the child. They will know how to react in similar situations. And then, of course, you have to set expectations on ethics and empathy. It's like playing a game. You have to tell them the rules of the game. You can't say go and play a game of football when you don't tell them or don't teach them how to play that game. What does the goalpost signify? What are the different positions? What happens if you move from that position? So through games, you can teach them ethics and empathy. So ultimately, it will build trust and respect among individuals. The play field is a absolutely good teacher for all kinds of skills, and most of all for ethical guidelines. So we need to create a community that is accountable and respectful towards each other. So here you can tell the students, you frame a code of conduct for the class, the behavior. And then you also say what will happen if there are deviations. So measures of deviation. And that is your code of conduct and what you call punishment. We are not going to call it punishment, we are calling measures for deviation. This will make them accountable for their behavior, and it will lessen disrespect and non ethical behavior. We have talked about stereotypes. Often, and now with RTI students coming in, you will see that they are isolated. But if we, you know, treat everybody the same way, somebody may have a lisp, somebody may not be able to talk coherently, somebody is not walking as normal people do. Somebody is physically challenged. We have all types of people. So the first thing is we must understand the importance of these people, of all students. Everybody has a uniqueness and something that makes him or her stand out. We have to recognize this and make others recognize that also. So, inclusiveness is one big factor towards inculcating empathy. So, when students are able to see the individualized aspect of other people, they become more empathic. This means they can better understand the emotions and experiences of others, which can make interactions more productive and enjoyable. So, if you understand your group, you obviously know the strength and the weaknesses of the groups, and that makes them to be more tolerant. I may have a group of students, uh, somebody coming from higher status, somebody coming from a vernacular background, somebody coming from down the line of the status hierarchy, somebody coming with a color bias or region bias. And once you understand the differences, well, once you make the students understand the differences, there will be a meaningful friendship growing amongst them and tolerance and acceptance, which goes for us as adults also. So when we talk of stereotypes, we have discussed stereotypes. So then, uh, what about bullying? How do we uh, find solutions, or why is bullying taking place? Again, bullying is somebody thinks I am stronger than you, and or someone who's looking for acceptance. Most bullies look for acceptance, so they resort to bullying. Now you can have different situations where you ask the children, this is the situation, how do you feel when somebody hits you or somebody isolates you? What are your reactions? Once they understand their reactions, then you ask them, do you think you can inflict this to others? Would their reactions be different? So then they understand that reactions to similar things is not different. I feel the pain as much as the other person feels, or the other person feels the pain as much as I do. So you have to teach them respect and value differences. So maybe it's a suggestion, you start early by teaching your students about respect and value at a very early age, which most of us do. Talk about different cultures and their customs with their students. Sometimes, if this is not done, students tend to disrespect that culture, and they laugh and giggle and snigger. um, there's a lovely video which you can download, Green Eyes, Blue Eyes, and it's in a classroom. And the teacher talks about uh, what will happen, who are the people we don't accept as our own, or we treat differently. Now, this is based in an American school. So the students say blacks, Indians. So the teacher says, yes, but why do we do that? And how do they feel? So the students couldn't answer. And so she said, okay, today let's see, all the students who have green eyes will get a privilege. They can go out during break time and stay longer outside. And so they do that. And when they come back, they are asked their reactions. So they said, "Oh, we had fun. We felt privileged. We felt we were got the better of the other students, etc." So the blue eyes student said, "We felt bad. We felt as if we had been denied something." And so a good way of teaching children, the teacher said, this is what we do. When you don't treat the blacks or the Indians as you would do your own people, this is what happens. For no fault of theirs, you are ostracizing them. It's a beautiful video. Unfortunately, I can't play it. I don't know, some technical fault, but you must download it and show it to your children. It's a great video on empathy. This is the video Tuesday morning, blue eyes, green eyes. So again, active listening. Active listening means you are alert to what the other person is saying. So you are understanding, you are listening, you are also having an insight into why that person is feeling the way he or she is. And that will build a trust between students and educators. As educators, we need to listen to the students. They have a lot to tell us. They have a lot, of dark areas which they don't know. I don't know how to deal with my parents. They don't understand me. I don't know why that boy always keeps tearing pages from my book. I can't run fast, so the games teacher doesn't take me in many games. The child wants to talk. And so you need to listen and understand and find solution. Okay, you can't run fast, but you can do something else. The boy is tearing pages. Why don't you become friends with him? Ask him why he's tearing pages. Maybe he wants your attention. So these are active listening and compassionate listening that we talked about. And this will definitely improve the student outcome. Studies have shown that active listeners outperform non listeners in measures of reading, maths achievement, problem solving skills. We also have ASL, which is um, based on listening skills. So you can develop using ASL for developing empathy and listening skills in your students. When you are doing listening skills, please read stories which have built in empathy insights. And then you can carry on a discussion on it. So, again, active listening, because when they are listening, they feel connected. They can also learn critical skills through listening. They can develop social, emotional, and decision making skills. It all depends on what they are listening to or what you want them to listen. So you must have a compendium of such stories which allow the child to develop these different skills. So no one likes, one person in the class who is goody two shoes, teacher's pet. Nobody likes that kind of a student, but students who are allowed to express their opinions appropriately will often feel more confident and engaged in class. Now, it may be that the students what he's expressing, he or she is expressing, may not make any sense, but allow the person to talk. And then later on, you can have a discussion in the class with multiple discussion, people's opinions that were expressed, and the child who spoke nonsense will also understand. But if you shut him up and say, okay, you're off the point, you're talking nonsense, he's never going to speak again. He's never going to respond and be open to other people's opinions. So that again is closing doors to a positive, empathetic person. So students who practice active listening regularly will develop a more positive attitude towards others. And it can lead to better relationships with teacher and other students. Good listeners are likely to feel connected comfortable, and happy. If you try it, if you listen to your students with an open mind, you'll have a trail of students following you everywhere because they'll say, that's the teacher I like. So, again, we have talked about students to manage difficult situations. So, we need to develop coping skills. We need to show them how to manage difficult feelings, especially in adolescence. They don't know what is happening to them. There are physical changes, there are emotional changes, and they don't know where to go to get answers for this. So you need to help them out to tell them what is happening to them. It's nothing odd, it's nothing extraordinary, it's a very normal process. So it will help them to develop coping skills and it will build their resilience. Difficult experiences cause us to grow stronger as individuals. When we learn to fight for ourselves, we manage our emotions. I'm not saying get into a physical fight, get into a mental fight with yourself. Make your mind strong, and nothing will be able to defeat you. We need coping skills, all of us. So we first have to identify and express our feelings openly. Our relationships become much stronger. There are students in their adolescence. Uh, it's very normal to have friends, but we shy away from telling anyone because of the stigma they think it will bring to them. So when you are open, when you have an open door policy with your children as educators, as parents, they will come and confess to you. But if you have a strong, formidable exterior, let's rest assured they are not going to come to you, whether you're a parent or whether you're an educator. So the other thing is to increase the self-esteem. We don't feel understood or accepted. It is hard to feel like a whole and complete person. Everyone needs self-esteem. Everyone needs to be accepted. Everyone needs a person to hold his hand when he's feeling down and out. Every person, when he fails, doesn't need to be shouted at or reprimanded. He needs other people to understand why he did not fare well and how he can do better. That is compassionate empathy. So we need to do that. And we are adults, we are mature, we know how to help them out. So when we are struggling with these kind of situations, whether they are situations in the physical world or situations in the emotional world, we need to help them out without saying, oh, this is wrong, don't do this. There is no right or wrong at a certain age. We are putting our right, our perspective of right or wrong into the minds of the children. So again, we teach students to navigate social situations ethically and fairly. So, what is the job of an educator? And the educator has to see that when the child passes out of his or her hands, the child is creative, the child is confident to adopt and adapt in a fast changing world, that he's able to make informed judgment and to place these judgments in an ethical framework. So all this is required, not that he gets 99% and gets a high rank in IIT and JE and all that. No, he has to become a good human being who is an asset to the world. not just to the nation. So we have a hard, important task ahead of it. So teachers, now if you can teach all this, their actions will affect the people around them. So if the child has been closed doors on, he will think that is the way of life and he will react similarly. But if he has experiences of openness, he will respond similarly because he doesn't know any other way. So, empathy, the awareness of the feelings of others, we have to be genuinely curious about others. We have to imagine ourselves in others' shoes. We have to be an attentive listener, discover similarities and also dissimilarities. You can say, okay, let's see what is similar in this class. And they will say, we all of us have two hands, this, whatever it is. Now, what is dissimilar? And it could be anything. It could be as simple as I eat chapatis, he eats rice. Simple things. But let them come out with this. Share who you are. Who you are means I'm so and so, I'm good at this, but I'm not so good at this. Validate others' feelings. That is very important. And empathy encompasses all of this. So, again, what are the obstacles? So, everything. When we are driving a car, you'll have a bump coming on the way, and that will stop you from having a smooth ride. So, when we are having inculcating empathy in our students or in ourselves, we also have, obstacles. So, stereotypes, we have discussed this. Stereotypes can be obstacles from understanding other people's experiences and feelings. This person is dark colored. So, this person is not good. I've already got that in my mind. So, I'm not going to be open to that person's feelings at all because it's ingrained in my mind. You can say he doesn't speak properly. He doesn't dress as per the fashion of the day. So I've closed my mind to all that. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to understand you. So stereotypes could be anything, could be race, could be ethnicity, could be also from the area you come from in a city. This is a posh area. This is a not so posh area. So I close my mind to you. So stereotypes is an obstacle to our empathy development. Poor listening. So when we said we have to listen, we have to inculcate the art of listening, then poor listening obviously becomes an obstacle. So we have to develop the art of listening because if we don't listen to the other person, it can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. And that is very difficult to deal with. So, poor listening diminishes our ability to empathize with others because we don't understand why he's feeling the way he is. So, because we are not listening to that person. And we already have in our mind that this person is feeling this way because you already have presupposed. So you cannot help that person. You cannot feel the pain and frustration of that person. Lack of communication. So when we don't listen carefully, we miss the important details and get confused about the complex message being conveyed. Conveyed. So it's very, very important. Fear. So sometimes fear is an obstacle because we are inhibited. We don't want to talk about our feelings because there is no ambience of openness. So that because there is no ambience of openness, see nowadays also you have nuclear family, both parents working, child is alone all the time. There is no one to whom he can express his emotions, even simple things like what happened in the school, or why he could not, talk to his friends properly, or why his friends could not talk to him. So then he, you know, gets into himself. He retires into himself and builds a feeling of isolation. Now, when these feelings become very strong, he becomes an introvert, and it has a negative impact on social interaction and communication. So, fear. And that's why I said there should be an ambience of openness. Give him experiences, expose him to different kinds of experiences. Antisocial personality disorder is a psychiatric disorder. It is characterized by a pervasive pattern of disregard for others that leads to social and occupational impairment. They are very difficult to get along with, and they have very few friends. So these kind of people, antisocial personality disorder people, they are less likely to feel empathy for other people. So it's a psychiatric disorder which has to be treated by a counselor. So we have to understand this, that this person is going through this experience because he has this disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is where the person thinks he is the best. I'm the best. So I cannot come down to the level of others. So they have an inflated sense of their own importance and self-esteem. So they tend to look down on other people, and obviously you will not have empathy for others. So you have to break this bubble that they carry. Now, especially for educators, compassion, fatigue, and burnout. We are showing compassion all the time, and it gets to you because sometimes you have to move away from your instinctive ingrain to be compassionate. But if you are making way every time, then it can tire you and burn you out. So you have to start again. They cause a depletion of energy and motivation, making it difficult for people to feel compassion for others. So this can often lead to feelings of disattachment from others and a decreased desire for to help them. Sometimes it can get to us. The whole day, you can't be nice all the time. Even educators are human. They need to let their hair down. But we have to be very careful of this compassion fatigue and, you know, take time out to get out of this. So you can help your students develop empathy skills and become better communicators, but you will have to take time out to get out of this fatigue and burnout. One of the reasons why you get so many holidays. So, some activities you can teach your children to refrain from bullying, and I've discussed this. They to help them learn and practice empathy in direct connection with bullying situation. They can prepare children, and they can help children practice empathy skills. You give them a situation and let them discuss what happens when somebody is bullied or you are bullied. Would you do it inflicted to somebody else when you have already experienced the pain and frustration? So then ask children to describe and label how they feel in these three different bullying situations. If they saw someone being bullied, how did they feel? If they were being bullied themselves, what were their feelings? If they bullied someone. So when they saw, when they experienced it, and when they inflicted it on somebody else. So once they understand the experiences of this, I don't think they will resort to any of these. Then, of course, we have discussed what is similar and what is dissimilar. So some children are big, others are small, some are fast, others are slow, some like to play with dogs. So what would our group be like if we were all the same? Same height, same abilities, everything the same. How would you feel if they were all like that? So the first reaction may be, oh, how nice, how nice. But then they will say, it's so boring because there's nothing different. Variety is the spice of life. You can say, what would happen if your mother made same dal and roti every day? How would you feel? And then they would say, we want to change. And that's where the similarities will be best understood. So you have discussed the many ways that children are similar to one another. So all children eat, grow, sleep, have feelings. So that's how they are similar. And then we should explain that we all agree to appreciate our differences. We have differences. So what are the differences? He eats idli, I eat roti. He is tall, I am short. He wears pant shirt, I wear shorts. Whatever, little things to show the differences and the similarities, and then how they can work as a cohesive group. Then how can you know how someone else is feel? These are discussion points. Listen to what they say, ask them how they feel, look at their body postures, face. All these are prompts to how a person feels. How can we recognize when a person is feeling bad or left out? Again, you have already showed emojis, so they recognize certain emotions and they will talk about it here. How can we cheer up children who feel bad and help them feel better? So you may pay attention to them, pat them on the back, ask them if they'd like to play with you or share their tiffin with you. All these are simple gestures that will make the other person feel nice. Then role play, we've already, so you can divide the children into pairs and ask one child in each pair to pretend that he or she has been bullied and feels bad, while the other child pretends to be a bystander who tries various ways to make the bullied child feel better. It's a role play. They will find their own ways. So try that. It's very interesting. And then discuss how the bystander could tell that the bullied child was feeling hurt and what did he decide to do to make him feel better. So we have so many of these activities and you can have acts of kindness. Tell them to write down a list of kind deeds that they did during the day or during the week. How did you feel while receiving the kind deed? Or how did you feel when you did kind deed to someone else? And so on and so forth. What you're doing is awakening their sense of empathy and bringing out a feel good factor in them. So there is a golden rule: do to others as you would want them to do to you. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you. So then you ask children, what would you want others, how would you want others to respond to you? So yes, I wouldn't want someone to say I'm stupid. So I won't say you're stupid to anyone else. I wouldn't want someone to pull my hair. So I won't pull anyone's hair. I wouldn't want someone to say mean things about me. So I won't say mean things about anyone else. These are little things, little small ways that the child understands that this is how I am supposed to behave. So I'd like someone to invite me to play. So I will invite someone to play. All these little activities, uh, doing a kind deed, make that a habit of your everyday class. And you will find your class becoming very sensitive to the needs not only of their colleagues, but also to yours. So you can try with children of any age, or, positive mood boosting activity. So what you can do is instruct each student to turn to one of their colleagues or the person sitting next to him or her and say something good. Anything. One nice thing in my life is, or something nice that happened is. And so these nice things they share, everybody shares, and then they can share with the class. And you'll find the whole class brimming with positivity. You don't have to motivate them to learn what you want to teach them for that day. They're all ready for you. So silent appreciation. So you can give them handout and say, one cool thing I've learned from you is from a friend. I admire your personality because I'm so grateful that you do, or you are doing, or you are. I have confidence in you when you. Some great things about you are. I think it's great the way you. I enjoy spending time with you because. And so you have collect the handouts, everybody does it, collect the handouts, it rotates in the class. And collect the handouts because everybody has written about everybody else. And encourage the students to share with the class. And you'll find everybody writing nice things. Nobody will write a negative. So you are inculcating a habit of niceness in the students. And if you start young, they will think this is the way I have to behave. This is my rule of the game to behave properly. And you can ask them to write thank you notes, anybody, or say good morning to anybody. So they can do some good deed every day. One good deed. You say do only one good deed every day and come and share. So it could be I said good morning to so and so, or I helped the Didi in the class in the school to pick up litter, or I did not litter the class because I know the Didi has to clean the classroom. And whatever, it could be outside the classroom as well. So that's what I think we can do to build empathy in our students and in ourselves, because it's something that has a rippling effect. If you are empathetic, your students, your partners, your friends, they'll all be empathetic. We all go to a friend when we are feeling bad because we know that person will listen and give solutions. We all do that. So let's give it to our students also. Thank you so much for listening. Uh, so, little quote, while many of child's everyday activities, such as playing, going to school, and interacting with people, will provide natural opportunities to develop these critical traits, there is plenty we can do to proactively develop a child's kindness and empathy. We are so stuck up with our syllabus and curriculum that we forget the actual importance of education. And that is to develop these skills in our children that will make them good individuals and an asset for society. Thank you so much for listening, and let us walk this journey together. Needless to add, I'm at your disposal anytime you want any kind of help or guidance. You just have to pick up the phone and call me for help. Thank you so much. Okay, Ruma, I think we can,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. So
Okay.
I wish to
Thank you so
thank
much.
Ruma. No, thank you so much, Ruma, for helping me out as
Most
usual.
welcome, ma'am.
So thank you so much. And thank you to all the participants. It's been wonderful.